Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to the Path Forward special TASA Midwinter edition here in Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez. I've got a special guest, friend of the show, second time to join us 1 year ago.
That's right.
Dr. Bryan Taulton, the Superintendent, Coldspring-Oakhurst
CISD.
CISD. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
How's your year been?
So far, so good. I think we've had a great year. Obviously, a great first semester. Obviously, the new year is off to a great start as well. So, obviously, last year, you're still dealing with a little bit of COVID. So I think this is our first official year of just kind of getting back to normalcy.
Right.
So yeah, it's been great.
So give me your best highlight from the first semester.
First semester. First highlight. A lot of and like I said, you and I kind of spoke a little bit. A lot of it was, first and foremost, just welcoming our students back.
Right.
School got back off to a great start. We did have, just a lot of events. In the fall, you have football. We have a huge trunk or treat event.
Okay.
Well attended. We started it last year. I've hosted this trunk or treat event. Started doing it a couple years ago when I was in a previous district, and I brought it with me. And we were trying to decide if we were going to be able to actually have it, just
right,
because it was last minute planning. We did it last year, huge turnout. This year, it was an even bigger turnout.
It grew legs of it on its own, didn't it?
100% of its own. I mean, I think we gave out like maybe 800 hot dogs. There was face painting. There were cars lined up, giving out candy to our students in our community. Costumes, I mean, you name it. So it was a great event.
So let me ask how did the elementary teachers feel with all the kids coming back to school with probably loads of candy?
I know. I'm pretty sure that was something that posed a little challenges for them the day after. But no, it was great. It was a great turnout. Like I said, it was well attended by all school stakeholders, as well as a lot of school organizations kind of decorated cars and did those, all those different things.
Absolutely.
So it was great.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the trunk or treat. I've never gone to one because we usually take the kids out and let them go door to door. And we went to a couple in Sci-Fair, and man, it's an event. I was like, man, I've been missing the boat on this for 45 years. I mean, we should have been doing this from the get-go. Yeah. So I can imagine how that blows up and everybody's having a great time. That's awesome.
And a lot of it is like I said, just making sure that's always also been a focus of mine since I arrived in the district, is really strengthening family community engagement and having those events. I think those events are great to have and be able to welcome not only our students but also families and parents and guardians out.
Absolutely, because it'd have been me up there. I would have been eating up all the hot dogs. You'd have been like, hey man, leave some for the kids. I'd have been using all the ketchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was great event. So yeah. Absolutely.
So let's switch gears real quick. So we're at TASA Midwinter. This is an opportunity for colleagues to come and learn and grow and engage in professional development. And one of the things you always see sessions on leading through change.
Yes.
And I know you're going through a little bit of that right now with your school district, and I wanted you to share, what that change looks like and how you're setting your district up to maximize student outcomes.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with a lot of it. First and foremost is that starts with me. I make sure that first and foremost, I'm always leading by example.
Sure.
But at the same time, I also focus on the 4 disciplines of execution. So we've set student performance goals. We set those back in the summer. And we actively monitor and track those throughout the year. So obviously you have your district goals, right,
sure,
that are established at the onset of the school year. You have campus improvement plans, all those different things. But at the same time, it's a scenario to where who's tracking and monitoring those. So
right.
we start talking about the 4 disciplines of execution. It is, 1, what's your wildly important goals?
Right.
What do you focus on? And then you have number 2, your lead and lag measure. So what are you going to do for goal attainment? What are you doing in between August and May to make sure you're attaining your goals? And then you also have keeping score.
Yeah.
Keeping basically from an accountability standpoint, what we do is we're actually looking at data on a regular basis. And at the same time, when we're looking at data, we're also making changes. We're intervening.
Sure.
If obviously you notice that something needs to be corrected, that's an opportunity to intervene and correct that. And then also accountability, and that starts again with leadership. So that's been a big portion of it. But I think the most important thing is just transparency, open lines of communication. with all school stakeholders. That's always a big piece. Goal setting and also progress monitoring to ensure goal attainment as well.
Tell me I've always used the analogy of, your exercise, your diet. Everybody's, at some point, probably most everybody's had either tried a diet or wanted to get in shape or want to get stronger or what have you. And I try to make the comparison that, well, if you only monitor once a month or once to 6 weeks, what are the chances you're going to be successful with whatever your health goals are, right? I mean, if you're serious about it, you have to do it religiously.
Yeah, right. It has to be consistent,
and you have to monitor it. And when things go off the rails, you have Thanksgiving for you have to adjust. You have to account, and for whatever reason. And I know there's a lot of components with the state of when we get our data back and all of that. But in the meantime, being very very open, like you said, transparent, but also very aware.
That's correct.
Right?
That's
because the quicker that we can identify the gaps, quicker we can identify the different learning modes of our kids, the better off that we'll be. So I commend you for really honing in on that piece, because that's very difficult.
Yeah. And so a big part of it, like you mentioned, is being consistent.
Yeah.
And that's all year. It's not a situation where, but at the same time, being relentless.
Yeah.
And at the same time, looking at, okay, these are goals that we established in July before school started. So what are we doing for goal attainment? We set goals at the onset of the school year. What are we doing in between August and May to make sure that we're on track to attain our goals?
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time, like I said, in coaching and developing our principals in my district, but then at the same time, utilizing data, looking at exactly where we are real time.
Absolutely.
And intervening immediately. Okay, well, this is an area, okay, what are we going to do? Obviously, last year, for example, we knew that, and this is across the state of Texas, and then also nationally and in my district. So math scores, math performance has dwindled. There's lots of learning loss as it relates to COVID. So we did implement new curriculum last year as well. We're targeting and making sure we're targeting mathematics as well. And so there's a number of things we're doing right now to address gaps in mathematics. We're going to be doing a math blitz as we get closer to start season. Saturday.
You're scaring me to death because I was not a good math student, and and I was so shocked. I think like all of us were. Everybody was expecting the reading, right, to be the biggest issue, and then math comes out, and like you said, and you're honing in, and you're having to do these different blitzes. How do you know what the right treatment is? You guys are doing it right now on the spot like you should be. How do you judge the treatment? What is the right treatment? What's the right length?
So what we looked at was in detail was performance data. The trend was we had very minimal growth in mathematics.
Right.
Very minimal. And we saw huge gains in reading language arts. And like you mentioned, we thought, okay, well, it could be reading, but at the same time, mathematics is one of those areas where obviously the skills and concepts are building. They're building blocks from one grade level to the next. And so we made sure we're utilizing, first and foremost, high quality instructional material. So we implemented a new curriculum in grades kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay.
We will be, as I mentioned, in doing a Star Blitz. I was able to get a couple of additional instructional coaches as well, which has been a huge help.
Sure.
Obviously some new staff members as well in some mathematics spots. So, but right now it's all hands on deck. I have one of my principals that's going in teaching mathematics right now. We have our instructional coaches.
I love it.
Some small group. But we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to heighten student achievement in mathematics because, again, the data shows us. Data has not only just in our district, in Coldspring-Oakhurst CISD, but also at the state level and nationally, that we have a problem in mathematics. And what are you doing about it to address it?
Exactly. The scale don't lie, does it?
It does
when
not.
When you're off the reservation and you're eating wrong, the scale doesn't lie. Same thing with the data.
It doesn't.
I know that school districts have had to really get creative and think outside the box, particularly when it comes to staffing,
yes.
right? And there's no secret that there's fears from teacher retention. How are we keeping them? How are we training them? Because there is definitely a shortage. Talk a little bit about your philosophy and how you guys are leveraging the creativity to make sure students are doing well.
Absolutely. The biggest thing has been and I said this on the show and I preached this in my district, the most important work in CISD, or any school organization is the work that happens in the classroom.
Right.
Without teachers, you got nothing. That's number one. We have to understand and prioritize that the most important work in any school district happens in the classroom. And so what I'm always looking at is looking at being creative and finding creative ways to recruit and retain. Mm-hmm. And some of it is just small things. Like, for example, when I arrived in my district last year, we had, our employees had 5 state days, obviously, and 2 local days.
Okay.
All of my experience has been 5 and 5.
Yes.
So small things. This past school year during the summer, work with my board of trustees and central office staff. We added those 3 days back in.
Right.
But what we did was last year, for example, we were still battling some issues with COVID here and there, so we had COVID days. So basically, I took the COVID days away, but I did add in 3 more local days. That way, it's 5 and 5. We're looking at other things, like I said, right now as we speak, like parental leave, bereavement leave. We do have right now free lunch for all employees. So you're just trying to find ways to be able to recruit and retain. And then also this year, we started having some conversations. I know there's been something that's been out there, especially districts of our size, being that we're remotely located, is we're going to be transitioning to a 4-day week starting next year.
Yes. So, I mean, you are absolutely right. That is really sweeping across Texas because, like you said, districts are having to get very creative and utilize everything that they have to make sure the staff is well kept and the students have great teachers in front of them.
That's right.
And so we were talking a little bit offline. Staff has been receptive. Community has been receptive. To the
staff has been receptive. Community has been receptive as well. The vast majority. Obviously, there was some reluctance, and like I said, I looked at this in depth. I spent a lot of time kind of pondering on the idea of the possibility of a 4-day week. And what I did was I had to have a conversation.
Sure.
With myself, looking at how do I make sure that every day, every year, we have the best teachers in front of students. And so we lost, in my district last year, 49 teachers. We also know that there's a statewide shortage of teachers as well. And so that's where my focus lies, is making sure that every single day we have the best teachers in front of students. And so the question comes up is, how do I market my district? How can I market, considering we're remotely located?
Right.
How do I market the district? We have a lot of people that were driving in as far as Dayton, which is about roughly an hour away. A lot of people have longer commutes.
Sure.
And so some of the staff members that left, they went actually closer to home. Gas prices at the time last year, around this time, were higher. You have inflation and things like that. So those people, at the same time, everybody's dealing with a shortage. Then you start looking at last year, everyone was given 3% of the midpoint raises. We also added in retention incentives. And so everybody was doing that. So it's still basically, it's not a level playing field.
Right.
So what I had to do is really just kind of talk with my board of trustees, talk with some of my cabinet members, and I just felt like, hey, this one may be an option for us to be able to pilot a 4-day week for the next 3 years.
Yep.
And that will allow us, first and foremost, we'll look at student achievement. We'll also look at faculty and staff attendance.
Right.
And we'll look at teacher retention.
Yep.
We'll look at those 3 components to see, obviously, how effective this is. Because I always have this conversation, being that we can have school for 7 days a week. We can have school 7 days a week year round. But if we don't have the best teachers, it's not going to have the same impact.
Yeah, you don't want me in there teaching 3rd grade math, because it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad news. I can tell you that right now.
But if I can have a high-quality teacher,
high-quality
teacher in the classroom in front of students for 4 days, we'll be extending our days. Our days will start at 7:45. We'll end at 4:15. Then at the same time, look at the impact of that.
Right. Well, you've already talked. You guys. I know that you're a fan of data, and you train your staff, your administrators, that y'all are going to be very, very laser focused on that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And obviously, you're gonna be measuring this as you go.
The title of my dissertation was Retaining High Quality Teachers Through Mentorship and Support.
Yep.
And so what you'll realize, like I said too, I just actually went to a session this morning on recruitment and retention, and a lot of it is being very strategic and finding ways to be able to better recruit, retain teachers. And that always has to be the priority. What are we doing? What are we doing as leaders to market our district to get the best teachers here.
Always. All right, let me throw this one at you.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I got a philosophy that school districts need to start looking at how corporations incentivize hiring and get outside the box. So let me give you an example, right? You've already done one of them, which you provide free meals for your staff.
Yes.
Okay. Could we potentially provide some type of incentive programs for family vacations, like you build certain point levels, if you will, right? So if your attendance is this, and you're a teacher over whatever that time frame is, the district will chip in towards whatever that vacation may look like, right? Now, obviously, the finances would have to work to all of that.
Yes.
Is there an opportunity for to work towards bonuses based on either attendance, there's a lot of people that do student growth,
Yes.
but trying to think of other ways to incentivize how we would retain teachers. Would you be willing to pay for people's Netflix account for a year? I'm serious.
Got you.
Because people are getting very creative, and you'd be surprised at the little things that make a huge difference. So. Do you agree that we need to start really looking at how?
I agree. I do agree that looking at ways, again, to incentivize, like I said, teachers. And right now, for example, we're looking at the teacher incentive allotment as well. So we actually are in that process right now of outlining that to be implemented next school year. Obviously, the teacher incentive allotment program was designed for districts like Coldspring.
Sure.
And so we talked with some of the neighboring districts that implemented theirs a couple of years ago. And so that we think that also will be a game changer. So when you look at all the things that we talked about, you have a 4-day week.
Yep.
4-day week. Same compensation, 4-day week. You have, as I mentioned, free lunch for employees. We will, like I said, also have incentives as well. So you have retention incentives as well as teacher incentive allotment. You have parental leave that we've been discussing. We'll have to discuss it a little bit further with the board. We have parental leave, bereavement leave. We also have competitive benefits, obviously, across the board. You have very supportive district-level administrators, campus administrators that are servant leaders, and we're here to support faculty and staff. So those things are important.
Absolutely.
A lot of it that when I was doing my study a couple of years ago, the number one reason, some people would think it was pay, but the number one reason why they were leaving was the lack of administrative support was number one.
Right.
What we're also noticing is looking at time. That's where the 4-day week also came into play, because I was just in a session earlier and they were talking about teachers just want additional time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just, okay, well, I have all of these other duties that I have to take upon. So just some of those things, just again, looking at creative ways to be able to market your district. That way you can recruit and retain the best.
Right. Quality of work life.
Because at the same time, too, it becomes a situation where when you have a revolving door, teachers are in and out, it destabilizes your school community.
Right.
And I think at the same time, my focus is really making sure, again, every year we're looking at marketing strategies and ways we can recruit and retain.
Absolutely.
In a cost-effective way.
Of course.
Cost-effective way.
You know how it is. We got to make sure we're in with that budget. No doubt. So I do want to, the listeners, the viewers, if you'll like, subscribe, make some comments if you would, please. But I also want to give you an opportunity, Dr. Taulton. Is there any way, how do they get a hold of you if they're interested in your school district or working with you? Is there any social media or anything you want to plug?
Yeah. So I like I said, I'm not as active. I kind of under the radar a little bit, but I do have a Twitter account as well. I do actually. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't know my handle on LinkedIn, but
that's okay.
You can look me up.
It's easy
Bryan
to find.
Taulton. That's right. I'm on LinkedIn. And then also on Twitter as well. But no, also check out our website at tocisd.org. So yeah, check out the website. Check out our school district website. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I would tell anybody out there, if you want to work with a fantastic leader, if you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself, if you want growth, if you want to help kids, you need to get in contact with them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was great to see you
again.
again.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Produced by Podcast Architects.